Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Super Bowl 55, barely even cold, but Super Bowl 56 odds, as you would expect, are already out. And, I think this is going to be a very interesting year from the Saints' perspective, looking at Super Bowl odds, because we've sort of understood for as long as the Saints have been in this sort of win-now mode, and Drew Brees has been at the center of this franchise, that they were always going to have very high Super Bowl odds, and that they were just going to be one of the teams that was an odds-on favorite to win, because that's just where they're positioned. They've been building to this. Now we're all readily understanding and aware that Drew Brees is very likely going to retire, and the great unknown is who's going to be playing quarterback for the Saints next year. So whatever these odds are, we can all assume that it's going to be Jameis Winston, but whatever these Super Bowl odds are, I think reflect not just the quarterback position, but that roster as a whole and what's there and how they're viewed. So probably not surprisingly, a Super Bowl 56 odds, so these are odds for next season, the Kansas City Chiefs are at the top of the list. That shouldn't surprise anyone. Yes, great run by Tampa. They played very hot late, but keep in mind they weren't even the division champion this year. And while they likely return everyone, there's a reason Kansas City was in back-to-back Super Bowls. They've still got Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City's still the odds-on favorite at plus 600. The Packers are next at plus 900, followed by the current champs, the Bucs, at plus 1,000. Next are a couple of AFC teams with the Bills and the Rams. And then back to a few NFC teams. The Bills and Rams are both at plus 1,200. The Niners are at plus 1,600. And then your New Orleans Saints at plus 1,800. So the eighth best Super Bowl odds for next year are your New Orleans Saints. Better than 24 other teams. Remember, 14 teams make the playoffs. The Saints have the eighth best odds, according to Vegas, to win the Super Bowl next year. Not just be in it, but to win it. That, to me, speaks volumes about this roster. More on that in a second. A couple of other notables. Following the Saints, the Seahawks, the Browns, a couple more playoff teams. The highest odds for a non-playoff team is San Francisco. And San Francisco just one spot ahead of New Orleans. And obviously the Niners just had a ton of injuries a year after being in the Super Bowl. So most expect the Niners have a bounce back when healthy. Anyway, so Niners, Saints, Seahawks, Browns, Cowboys, and Colts both at plus 2,500. They're joined by the Dolphins and Titans. The biggest surprise in this list to me has to be the Titans. The Titans with back-to-back playoff appearances at plus 2,500, smack dab in the middle of this list. The other playoff teams on the list, the Steelers at plus 3,000, the Bears at plus 5,000, and then Washington football team way down at the bottom at plus 6,600. What an abysmal year in the NFC East. Take that for just whatever it's worth. At the very bottom, the bottom five are the Bengals, Lions, Texans, Jets, and Jags, all likely to, or we know will have, new quarterbacks next year. The Bengals obviously will have Joe Burrow, but everyone else there will very likely have a new quarterback next season. If you're wondering, Panthers and Falcons near the bottom. Panthers at plus 5,000 and the Falcons at plus 6,600. So Saints and Bucs very likely to be jostling at the top of the NFC South again next season, and see if the Saints can pull off another division title and maybe get back to the Super Bowl. But I do think the fact that the Saints have the eighth best odds to win the Super Bowl is validation of this roster where we don't even know who the quarterback is going to be. We don't know right now who that'll be. I mean, we're all assuming, I'm assuming, that it's going to be Jameis Winston. I mean, we saw reports over the weekend from Ian Rappaport, notably, that Jameis Winston is in the driver's seat. His words, to be the Saints quarterback for next year. And that makes a lot of sense for a lot of the reasons we've talked about here over the last certainly several weeks, and really over the last month, I guess, probably even longer, since Jameis signed last year, why it makes a lot of sense for him to be the next guy. But when you look at Winston being in the driver's seat, the report from Rappaport is that Jameis Winston, this is what he said on the NFL Network pregame show. The New Orleans Saints know this. Drew Brees is set to retire. He hasn't officially announced it yet, but it's going to happen. Their quarterback plans for 2021 are this: Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. Rappaport added, my understanding is Jameis Winston is in the driver's seat to be starting for the Saints next season. He is the potential heir to everything Drew Brees had. Again, Jameis has started 70 games. He's completed 61% of his passes, led the league in passing yards in 2019, where he went for over 5,000 yards. Yes, turnovers have been something that have been oft discussed. You know my feel on that. We've talked about that a lot here as well. But also over this weekend, remember, Drew Brees restructured his contract. So in so doing, he saved the Saints some $24 million. The other bit of information we got today is that it looks like New Orleans is going to be $79 million over the cap. Remember, initially that number we thought was going to be $100 million. And they sort of readjusted that, and it looked like it was going to be closer to $90 million. That the projected cap number of 185 was actually off, or 175 was off by about $10 million. So that gave the Saints a little bit more room. But now we find it's actually going to be even more so. Reports today are that the Saints are going to be $79 million over the cap. You restructure Drew Brees to save $24 million. Well, now all of a sudden, obviously, you've freed up some more cap space there. The Saints are going to make this work. They always do. My big question is, what does a Jameis Winston contract look like? What would that number be? I've said that I think it looks a lot like the Teddy Bridgewater number. You got a 3-year, $60 million contract in the neighborhood of $20 million a year. I don't know how you go much less than that for a starting quarterback in the NFL. And if the Saints lowball Jameis, is he willing to stay, or does he go somewhere where he may have an opportunity to make more money and be a starter on a potential playoff team? That's something that'll play out in time. But the other part of this conversation that has popped up mostly as a result of what happened last night with the Bucs winning the Super Bowl, and I've seen this a lot. People will say, how could Jameis not have won with this team? Tom Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl in the first year with this team. Who scored the first touchdown of the night? Excuse me. Who scored the first 2 touchdowns of the night? It was Rob Gronkowski. He was not on the team a year ago. Who scored the touchdown right before half? That was Antonio Brown. Also not on the Bucs a year ago. Who scored the 4th touchdown? Oh, it was playoff Lenny around right end. Beautiful run, by the way. Also not on the Bucs a year ago. And the other guy who scored points, the place kicker, who made field goals and extra points, Ryan Suckup, also was not on the team a year ago. Literally everybody that scored a point for Tampa in the Super Bowl last night was not on the Bucs team a year ago. And the only real miscue they had was the snap over Tom Brady's head, and that was Ryan Jensen, who was on the team a year ago, by the way. And Antoine Winfield, who played awesome, by the way. Much respect to Antoine Winfield, who jacked up his shoulder, played in the NFC Championship game, injured it again, got himself right over the 2 weeks. I'm sure he had the thing in a harness, injected it, went and played a great game. Good for him. But anyway, it's looking more and more obvious that Jameis Winston's going to be the guy. Reports from me and Rappaport over the weekend are that's going to be the case. What's that number going to be? We'll find out sooner than later. But the Saints are already in a much better cap position than we initially thought, thanks to a restructure here by Drew Brees early in this process. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.